following is a paid program. The content is provided by the advertiser. WPSL, its staff, management, and ownership are not responsible for the content. Investment involves risk. Prior to making any investment, an investor should meet suitability requirements. Past results are not necessarily indicative of future performance. Neither the opinions expressed nor the information provided constitutes a recommendation to purchase or provide investment advice. The material presented is not a substitute for obtaining professional advice from a qualified person or firm. Securities offered through Centaurus Financial, member FINRA and SIPC. And now, the host of the Team Martek Hour, Joe Martek.
So we were just talking legal stuff. We happen to have two attorneys in the same house at the same time.
Can we afford two?
You know what happens?
It's all pro bono today.
Oh. You know what happens when you have two attorneys?
Is this a
It
joke?
costs twice as much because you ever ask an attorney their opinion?
I have, but I've never gotten it.
But then if one attorney gives their opinion and you have another attorney in the house, we're going to have a different opinion because they can't get paid unless they have a different opinion. Mm-hmm. If they agree, don't you guys get paid by the word?
No.
No. Anyway, we
Ka-ching.
have ka-ching.
Sometimes it only seems that way.
We have Alan Love, ex-prosecuting attorney, ex-stock. I guess you're technically. Did you ever give up your registration as a stockbroker? You're 7?
No.
No, but you're not practicing law anymore.
That's correct.
Okay. I just need to keep you straight. But this is the first time he's been a guest on WPSL, but he's been an often guest on WCNO, our other station, which we do at 4 o'clock today, which we never mention on this show.
You just did.
Yeah, it's shameless self-promotion.
It just slipped right out. So we are also very blessed today to have the original 3 members of this team going back to at least 2004 when Greg Fasula, attorney, Dan Woron, independent insurance agent, and Joe Martek, financial advisor, all got together and said, let's start doing radio shows.
And Joe, for a radio show, that's a pretty long time.
In fact, to stay alive that long is a pretty long time,
For you, it
for
is.
you, me especially. And look at even Greg. You dyeing your hair now, Greg?
No, of course not.
Of course not.
Of course
No
not.
need.
No need. That gives us that distinguished look that you guys have.
The extinguished look. Is that what you said?
The extinguished look.
Right. Yeah, it was an interesting thing that not too long ago, a few months ago, maybe a year ago or two, who knows, we had a caller on this other station one day, called in, and she goes, I just want to tell you guys that I really, really appreciate you, and I especially appreciate this guy, Dan Woron. I said, well, why is that? Well, one day I'm out there, and I've got this horse ranch out in Palm City, and I see this old guy with white hair roaming around.
The sun was just gleaming on it, Joe, that's all.
Taking pictures. And I said,
the sun.
And I said, who are you? And he says, I'm Dan Woron. And she goes, why are you here? He says, well, you talked to my office about a quote for your insurance, so I'm coming out to make sure we do the right thing for you. So she then gave you the grandiose tour. Took, I'm sure, an hour. Huh?
It was wonderful. I mean, she was showing me all her stuff and her horses and her tack room, and so yeah, it was great.
See, what most people don't realize, unless you're in the business, that the very first person that works with the client is the first underwriter, who is supposed to ask questions and then submit the information to the home office, which doesn't get to see and touch you. But they are the real underwriters, and they have a biased opinion based on the first underwriter's opinion.
Well, here's what happens, Joe. I know that when I'm dealing with an equestrian risk, there could be some potential danger for people that they may not even be aware of because they're so used to it. So my job is to get out there, pre-inspect it, and if I see something, tell the client, these are the things that you need to address before the company's inspector comes and says, hey, we're getting off the risk.
Right.
Okay, because these are the things that have to be done. And it's no different than if you have a house with a trampoline.
Yep.
Some companies will say, no trampolines. Some companies will say, well, you have to have a fence around it. Some say you have to have a fence around it and a fence around the trampoline itself. Okay, so I have to know what your exposures are before I place you with the right company.
So
So
anyway,
even if the potential injury is caused by a horse,
Oh, absolutely.
the insurance would cover that.
Some companies say no exotic animals. Okay. And some companies say no dogs. Some companies say
Right.
only these dogs.
These types of dogs.
So
Yeah,
my job is to know what I'm getting involved with and then put that client in the right place.
so what happens literally, she called in because Dan's office ended up writing the risk, taking the risk. And the reason she was calling was not to pick on Dan because he was old and had gray hair, was to say that he got her better coverage and saved her $2,000 a year.
Hey,
Wow.
that's a happy day. I get a new customer. I make a little money, and they actually save $2,000.
Yep. By the way, the phone number here is 340-1590, 340-1590. This is a talk show, and we have Greg Fasula, attorney, Alan Love, attorney, Dan Woron, independent insurance agent, Joe Martek, financial advisor, and the two members that are missing are Ms. Victoria Loyd, Remax of Stewart, who's threatened to show up today, and you know she might, and then Mike
She's
Paulus.
working, Joe. You know.
She's always working.
Real estate is hopping so good right now.
Yeah.
She can't afford to visit us.
And Mike Paulus, mortgage broker, who's hand in glove with Ms. Victoria when it comes to doing real estate. Anyway, I was saying we started doing these shows back in around 2004, and the concept was very simple. We're here either to save people money or to make people money. And in fact, I was talking to Greg just seconds before the show started about a client of mine who was going to see Greg today at 3:30, who called me up to say, Joe, please go with us because you know how these nasty attorneys are. They're mean and they're arrogant, and they're pretentious and they're pushy. And I said,
And expensive.
And
Did she say that or you said that?
I said that. No, but she was nervous because, you know, Greg and Alan, you know this, that when you say attorney and you wear that label, you automatically have a tendency to intimidate people by position power. And that doesn't, you know, it's like when you walk into Willie Gary's office and he's got a $40,000 desk sitting on top of a $30,000 rug, and you go into his restroom, it's got all gold fixtures, you don't say, how's business?
You can assume that.
You can assume he's doing okay, and the office is about 1,200 square feet. You know,
Right.
it's kind of a clue. So it's a little bit intimidating that very often it's a tool that some attorneys use. Greg does not. Greg Fasula, and you know, I've known Greg, we don't know how long, but it's at least 20 years. And normally when I have a client and we talk about wills or trusts, when I first started working with people, I would find a local attorney that lived not too far from them. I'd go interview that attorney. And you know, Alan, have you ever noticed that attorneys, when you talk to them one-on-one as people, they're not bad people?
You're correct most of the time.
But then, all of a sudden, when that client would come in and meet that, all of a sudden the demeanor would change into this pretentious, a bit of a know-it-all, a little bit arrogant, and the client would be intimidated. Well, I don't know how in the world I bumped into Greg way back, but then I did the same thing. I probably had a client around the corner, went to Greg. All of a sudden, Greg listens. He didn't talk all the time. 2, he didn't have a $30,000 rug.
No, I don't.
3, he had sold the Bentley. No, he never had a Bentley. He was not pretentious, not arrogant.
You know what it sounds to me like, Joe? It sounds to me like you're trying to say you're getting a good value for your money.
And you know,
That's the way I would
well,
put it.
the second thing, and Dan and I, we have picked on attorneys for years
We love it.
that ended up doing these magnificent 8-pound documents bound in beautiful leather with stamped with gold,
Yeah.
so that they could charge an exorbitant price, and the client didn't have a clue.
No clue. I mean, when you look at those things, a lot of times there's so much fluff in there.
Oh.
I mean, so much that they don't need, and they're even hard for me to read.
But the book justifies the cost, Joseph.
That's my point. So it was interesting. A client of mine who actually had gone to see Greg, she came to see me and she says, Joe, I want you to review all these trust documents. And I said, no problem. Well, she couldn't carry them into my office. They weighed 9 pounds. And that 9 pounds was bulky
lot
for her. So I go get them, and then I took them over the weekend. And I'm telling you, it was about 6 inches thick.
Yeah.
And I reduced it to 1 page.
Yeah.
Because what happens when I die? Here's who gets the money. What do they get? I mean, really, that's what the average person wants to know, right?
Yeah, I have a couple that brought in their trust from, I think it was New Jersey, and it's just unbelievable.
Amazing.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those 8-inch binders, and there's so much state law in there, and
whatever
and
you can
tax
find for
law,
filler, throw it
codes
in.
and everything. It's filler. I mean, it's not. They don't need all that.
But if I'm going to charge you what I would consider an exorbitant price for it, I must give you something. Okay, it's like the old saying, you're buying the sizzle, not the steak, but at least you're getting something, right?
You want it to look good.
Well, anyway, this lady, after I got it down to one page, and she said, well, that's not what I wanted.
I wanted a whole book.
No, I didn't want when I died, my money to go that way. And I says, well, that's what it says, the best I can figure out. She goes, well, I need to go back to see him and have him modified. And I said, now, careful, he's probably going to give you another book and charge you another who knows what.
It's called an addendum when it's that big.
Well, she ended up either before, I don't remember exactly the chronology, but she went to see Greg and asked him some questions, and Greg didn't charge her anything. And she goes, why aren't you charging me? He says, because you'll be back. But one of the things Greg does, he consults and helps people, and unless they hire him to do a specific job, I've not ever seen you charge somebody. Just to do an initial conference.
Exactly.
Anyway, so my client, and I said, look, Greg is not going to give you the 7 pounds of books, and he'll do the power of attorney, which is critical. Mm-hmm. I think they forgot all the other stuff that I told him you would do because it wasn't important, but I said those two things are the most important parts. Mm-hmm. The health care surrogate, the living will, the pour-over will. You know, to me, those are good things, but the critical parts are the trust and making sure that mom accomplishes what's happened.
Yeah, I mean, when you're talking estate planning, that's to cover all bases. That's what you're talking about usually, some type of instrument to pass your assets, which would be will or a trust,
right?
And then someone to be able to handle those assets, which power of attorney if you're not able to,
right?
Someone to make healthcare decisions if you're not able to make a healthcare decision.
Well, you know, if you're in let's say a car accident, or hey, guess who showed? Miss Victoria Loyd. We got a scrunch. We're going to scrunch a bit, and we're not all going to be on the tube. And I'm telling you, poor Cliff is going to be just destroyed. But he'll survive. He'll survive. I know. Nobody watches us. Hey, Alan and my uncle are the only two that watch us on the tube, and
he's here.
Alan's here today, so it doesn't make any difference. That's good. But they can hear me. Is Victoria Loyd going to be in the picture? Yeah? I think it's more important that she's in than we are, because she's the best looking one of the group to start.
Hi, everybody. How are you?
So
Remember, move in.
So which way to move in?
No, they need to move in when they talk. Are we kissing cousins today?
Oh, you need to talk closer to the microphone. Move the microphone closer to your lips, because that's what, you know.
My lips closer or the microphone closer? I get confused, Joe. Come on, I'm
either.
a blonde. You know how
do either one.
confused I get.
You are not a blonde. You have never been a blonde. Even when you tried to be a blonde, you couldn't pull that off.
Oh, that's not true.
With a little work you could, right?
I'm going to try it again.
340-1590, 340-1590. So we have Ms. Victoria Loyd, Remax of Stewart. We have Greg Fasula, attorney. Dan Woron, independent insurance agent. Alan Love, interloper attorney, hanging out with us today. Are you coming down and doing the 4 o'clock show?
Yes, I am.
Okay, good. Now, because at the 4 o'clock show, we do Christian radio, and we're not supposed to talk politics. But because Greg Fasula's here today, who's a liberal.
He's a moderate.
He's a moderate liberal. Mm-hmm. He wants Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi for president and vice president, right?
Of what?
Are you having a little bit of buyer's remorse about now, Joe?
He's been waiting.
I mean,
he's been waiting to throw that.
He's been practicing that line.
He's been storing that one up now for weeks. But
oh my God,
Alan had a bit of an opinion today on the politics. Did you not?
I do indeed. I really think that our country is in trouble because of the fact that you might have an opinion as far as an individual candidate or as far as a position on an issue, but back when I was younger, Democrats worked with Republicans. They talked to each other. As a matter of fact, one of my favorite stories is that Everett Dirksen, who was the leader of the Senate way back in the 70s, and Sam Rayburn, the Speaker of the House, they would go at it tooth and nail. They would yell at each other. They would criticize each other on news shows. But every Friday afternoon when Congress adjourned, they would get together and have dinner and play cards together. I cannot see that happening with Paul Ryan and Chuck Schumer.
You're kidding. I think they do it. I think they play golf together. No,
but if they
I'm
said
kidding.
something nice to each other, it'd be leaked.
Yeah,
That's the
yeah,
difference.
it'd be leaked, right? Right. You can't have it without a leak. But anyway, listen. I think there's a strategy going on inside of the president's head, and that is, let's get all the Democrats mad and all get out at us, and let's accomplish nothing. So when the midterm elections call, we can get rid of most of them.
Mm-hmm. You're giving them too much credit.
The problem is, though,
I don't think there's any strategy going on in his head.
the problem with that, Joe, is because of the biased media coverage in most media. You've got the situation where the Republicans are winding up getting blamed for inaction, and if we have 2 years where we don't have a tax program, if we don't have a health care bill, it's going to be the Republicans that are going to get blamed by the voters, because the Republicans said, you elect us and we'll get this done. Well, at the moment, everything that the Trump administration is trying to do is being blocked, and I've never seen such bias in the media that I have today. And I've been involved in the media myself ever since I was 18 years old in some way, some form. But when you come to the bottom line, which I think is this, we are all Americans, and we are in the process of losing the American dream. And if we don't get together soon, we are going to find that everything that this country stands for is just going to be crumbling away. And do we really want that? Greg, is that what you want as a moderate liberal? Do you want to see the American dream?
No, of course not.
Okay.
But unfortunately, we have a president that's doing the dividing.
Well, let me ask you guys this then. Okay, if
Not that we're all together on
the
this team.
Republicans have asked us for a long time, give us the House, give us the Senate,
Right.
give us the White House.
Right.
They have all three. Why is there any need for us to ask the Dems to come along if the Republicans did what they were elected to do, and I elected them to do it,
Sure.
and they choose not to? If they choose not to act, they can make every one of those things you asked to happen if they got together and made it so.
Well, and let's play devil's advocate for a minute. And I hate to be on Greg's side because I never am, but I'm gonna just for a second. There's a lot of Republicans right now, including some extremely vocal Republicans, that are lambasting their boy also. Our local senator, guy from Cuba originally. Mm-hmm. And we have another guy that's ex-military hero, that's been on the tube, and all of these, and there's some other senators and congressmen that are coming up and basically staying not true to the party or to the line or to the president that are questioning. Now, let's go through this. If they do force investigations, and what if nothing comes of those investigations? Do you think that's going to make a difference with the media?
But they're not serving their constituents while they're
Of course
bringing
they're
up all these issues
course
that
they're not.
are non-issues.
But that seems to be the system, does it not? That it's called not work for the people. Let's challenge and let's get rid of or change the system rather than work for the people. So I mean, I think that's where we stand.
I'm more disappointed in the Republicans who are not coming to fruition of what they promised they were going to do when they got elected than I quite honestly am about the Democrats doing what I expected them to do all along, which is to be obstructionists and try to stop it, because that's what they do. But we should have enough people in the House, the Congress, and the White House to get the agenda done, but that's where we're failing. It would be nice to have some Democratic involvement in the process, but could we not do it without them if we
No,
all
they got the
together?
memo, Dan, and they're sticking to it.
Yeah.
They were going to resist everything. So
Yep.
I think the Republicans need to see that and just invoke the nuclear option every time.
Oh, I would.
Yeah,
I mean,
why not? Hey,
I
they
would
got
blow
the
it
power.
right up.
They got the power.
What do you think?
You're right.
One of the frustrating things when you say invoke the nuclear option is there are some Republicans who actually would vote against doing that, and so
Well, that's what we're
they
saying.
they don't have the majority that they should have.
But see, those are the people who are looking at themselves as having power.
Yeah.
They're
yeah.
looking more at themselves and their position than the position of the country and what the people are asking to have done.
And why do we call it the nuclear option? I don't even like that.
I don't
name.
No, I don't
understand
like
why.
that.
Where
Well,
did
the-
that word come from? Anybody have an idea?
Do you remember who
It's the-
started all
yeah.
this?
No.
Okay, the
Yeah.
old speaker.
Yeah.
Okay, he's the one
Yes.
who
With
made
that
it.
terminology.
Well, that's what it should be called. It should be named after him.
Okay.
It's like we have Obamacare.
Right.
Okay, it should be the Reed option.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be
That's Harry
the
Reid.
nuclear,
Nuclear
option.
option.
We should always call it the Reed option.
Well, you see, look at there's some other sides of the coin. One, you get elected to do things in our system. You get a lot of nothing happens. Sometimes nothing happens is better than something detrimental happening. Secondly, midterm elections. I'm still saying this is going to tell the real story. If the Dems win by lambasting and being against Trump's doing and finding things that he's doing wrong or improper or immoral or fattening, they'll take back the House or the Senate during the midterm. Well, guess what? Then we go into Plan B. Forget Plan A.
Is that not what happened to Obama?
Yeah, it's exactly what happened.
what happened to Obama.
Yeah.
But then he brought out his ever trusty pen,
Right?
and I'm all for the Don bringing out his pen now.
Yeah. So we're all gonna find out. So the
I tell you, if
situation in the
Clinton
mean,
would have done half the things that Trump has done so far, she'd be in impeachment proceedings so fast. And you know that's true.
I'd like
the
to think
Republicans
that.
don't have guts enough to do it.
They don't.
There were
They
there
don't.
were
That's
so many
true.
scandals with Obama, and yet he's touring going, "I had no scandals." It's because no
Oh,
one did anything about the scandals.
and
there's always gonna be perception.
illegal acts.
There's
are-
been no
two different
illegal acts
things.
proved on Trump's part.
Not
so-
yet.
Well,
but
see,
he's
as
acting.
an attorney, you know,
he's
you're just
acting
talking
like there is.
speculation. You're talking speculation.
But is
But
it,
Dan,
Greg, is he
he's
acting like there is, or it's being
acting like he
reported
wants to
that way?
cover-
It's
I
being
don't
reported
really
that
know,
way.
Nixon did.
I don't
We-
really know
Nixon
how he
wanted to
acts because
cover
I don't know him to know
Watergate.
how he's acting.
That's a good
Greg,
point.
Well, human nature. I mean, human nature.
Greg.
Someone that's acting like
But however,
it's going to
you really-
lead to him.
See, my point is this: that's because you're listening to the media. Are we hearing it from the horse's mouth? We're not hearing it
Of
from
course
the
not.
No. So I'm trying to say is,
What you hear from the horse's mouth, you can't trust anyways. It's usually not true.
Greg,
you're talking about Victoria's first ex-husband.
we
He never lied to you.
we are both attorneys,
Mm-hmm.
and we've been taught in law school
Mm-hmm.
to not prejudge things, to
Of
wait
course.
until the facts come in.
Mm-hmm.
Where are the facts that Donald Trump has created or committed any illegal acts? I know
there is no facts yet, but I'm just saying he's acting as if he's trying to cover.
that is
something.
your opinion, and that's
That's
what
my
that's
opinion,
what
yeah.
the media is doing. They are taking what they perceive they want to get out to the American people and broadcasting it as facts.
It's not
rather
the media. It's even Republicans that are saying the same thing.
because they're getting deluged by the media. I mean, when Republican senators go home at night with their family and they turn on the media, and 9 out of 10 stories are negative about Donald Trump, and the one story that is positive is about Ivanka or Melania doing something nice at an appearance.
Well, they're just reporting the truth. I mean, and if they're negative, they're negative.
And how do you know it's the truth when the evidence is not in yet, Greg?
There you go. See what he's
Well-
saying. What we're saying is, be careful of the media. Don't believe everything. Hey, every attorney's honest.
Mm-hmm.
Well, do you
Wait,
remember?
wait a minute. I'm waiting for the pregnant pause there.
You just
All
got
right, Joe. And every person in this world is honest.
Yes,
right?
that's
They
my point.
never lie.
That's my point.
You remember when
Everybody in jail is
What is a
innocent.
black lie and a white lie? Where does that fall when your mom
Boy,
and
my,
dad
mo-
used to
my
say
mother,
that?
my mother and her white lies. Do you remember?
Yeah, what are
I
they?
mean, that
Give
was-
me a definition here.
Would you think I look fat in this dress?
well, I hate it when you do wear a dress, though, Joe. You
I know,
embarrass
I
me
know.
to death. That's why I can't hang out with you anymore.
340-1590, 340-1590. I've been trying to get out of that closet forever, but that dress just won't make it.
Yeah, especially it's red, too.
Right.
Do you remember when Tipper Gore got in all that trouble
Yeah.
for saying that the media was influencing people? And all the TV people, all the big brass came and said, "Oh no, we don't do that." Okay, that was during that Murphy Brown show, and she was a single
Oh,
mom,
remember,
and
yeah,
she was
yeah,
going to
yeah.
have a baby,
Yeah.
and she said it was outrageous to make that as a normal way of living, and she got in all that trouble. We know the media has tremendous influence over society.
Well, and the reality is this, especially Alan and I, because we're the oldest guys here, there was limited media when we were kids. What did we have? 3 or 2 radio TV stations, only had radio, newspaper. There wasn't an internet. There was.
And there was something also called the fairness doctrine. So you couldn't have one-sided opinion on programmings. You had to basically invite the other side if you had.
Well, you still have to do that if we do that on a radio
That's
show.
why we have you and Greg.
Yeah, that's why we got check and balance. Are you from Slovakia?
If we have check and balance, do you mind if I be the balance? Because I'd rather have Greg write the checks to me.
340-1590, 340-1590. So Ms. Victoria Loyd.
Well, Mr. Bulldog just left me a message because he's watching us now, and I had my cell phone here on my hip pocket.
But he didn't.
He was just trying to tell me where am I storing my cell phone while I'm on the show.
Her in your hip pocket, right?
Right in my hip pocket.
Yeah. So he didn't call in yet today.
No, I guess he will call in any
Yeah, I mean,
minute now.
any minute because we don't have much time.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was funny last week when he called in, and I forget what the puns.
Oh, I know what it was. He called me.
Did he call you about?
Yeah, because you had a new girl in here, and you said you don't hire good-looking girls. And he took it as an insult because of me, and he said to get all over you, Joe.
Well, that isn't what he said on the radio. I don't know what we were talking about. I think it was marijuana stocks.
Oh, that was another thing.
And then he had a bunch of one-liners that were puns to
Yes.
do
That
with.
might be Bulldog calling in.
That
now,
might
maybe.
be 340-1590, 340-1590. So speaking of real estate, I mean, was this a good season?
Well, it is a good season. I mean, it's an interesting one. Again, where let's talk about the media, what the media says about what really is going on with real estate and what real estate is really happening in real estate.
Go ahead.
What's really happening?
Okay, I didn't know she had a call here.
That's okay. We all need headphones.
Okay, so
Do we have a phone call coming in? I bet you it's Bulldog anyway. He'll hang on.
Yes, it makes a difference, right?
We can share them.
Mhm.
If you guys do like this,
We can share.
We can share.
you can each have an ear at both of those words.
Yeah,
They
I
both.
don't
You
like
can,
that.
each one. You guys cuddle.
Now I'm going to take it apart.
Yeah.
Tell us the truth about real estate.
Well, the real estate is, I mean, like media's saying, there is a lot more new construction going up. We still do have inventory, even though they say we don't have inventory. And I must say that there's a lot of times that I am seeing reduced prices because things aren't moving quite as quickly as people are saying that they are moving. And the other thing that we had it in a situation where an appraised value, we had a contract price, but the appraised value did come in less money. So, we do have a market that's still, up
little
and
bit
down.
in a
It's
flux.
still in a little, yeah. So we got
340-1590, 340-1590. And do we have an actual caller on the phone? We do?
Go ahead.
Which caller is it?
It should be Bulldog.
Is this Bulldog?
No, it's Wes.
It's
Hey,
Wes.
Wes.
Hey, Wes, it's Joe Martek. You're on the radio.
Hey, Joe. How are you folks doing today?
Well, you hear us. We got a bit of a contract. We got 2 attorneys in here at the same time in the same room. And can you believe
Well,
they don't agree?
yeah, I can't imagine that. But, I was inspired by your energy here in your conversation, and I just have a couple of quick comments here, if I may.
Absolutely.
I follow you guys every once in a while when I'm home, and the radio's on. Anyway, this. I brought this up maybe a month or so ago, but it's kind of a follow-up call. and this is regarding our Social Security. Now, during the election, both Democrat side, Republican, Independent, I have not heard a single mention about paying back the Social Security that was stolen. Yes, stolen from our account.
You're talking about a trust fund? A trust fund?
You mean that old lockbox that wasn't locked?
Well, I started putting into my fund, not the government's fund, my fund, since I was 16 years old. I am now 71 years old, and the research that I did, and you can correct me if you have a different opinion, I read where if it was invested the way it was intended at only 3%, instead of people making maybe $1,800 a month in receiving Social Security, it should be up to about $3,500, maybe more. However, that money is not there, and we keep hearing about it's going broke. It's not going broke. It was stolen. Our money was stolen. It was like as if they went to your savings account and said, you know what, we want half of this money out of this gentleman's savings account that he worked all his life for, and they give it to him. Now, I don't know why, and my example to mind is when Barack Hussein Obama sent, I think it was $1.5 billion with a B to Iraq.
Iran.
I'm sorry, Iran. I stand corrected. To help develop their nuclear, whatever the hell the money was for, it was a plane full of cash. Why isn't that money deposited into the Social Security fund that they stole from? Why do we have all this money in this country that we can just pee away and without any input from the people who put that money there? The government has no money. They are broke. They have absolutely no money. It's our money. And that's what really disturbs me the most. I'm 71. I'm retired and still working because I have to maintain my lifestyle. And I am so highly irritated with both Democrat, Republican, the entire U.S. government for giving more money to illegal aliens than they do their own citizens, for crying out loud. We put into it. They put not a penny into it.
Wes,
why should we take care of it?
I guarantee you.
I'm on a roll.
I know, but I guarantee you, the whole panel here agrees with you, even our liberal attorney, because
moderate. But yeah, I agree absolutely. I think there's so much waste, Wes. I can't understand why we're the richest country in the world by far, and we can't have health care.
Yeah.
I mean, even Trump said, Australia, you got great health care.
Yeah.
Well, I wonder why.
Yeah.
But you got to remember, Greg, that they have a fraction of the population.
But it
that
still
we
make,
have.
shouldn't make any
they have a
difference.
fraction
and what
of
are the
this
taxes
country
like?
brings
And what
in.
are the taxes like?
But
Absolutely.
The key thing is this. We have some major inequities in our government, and I think one of the things that's happening with this panel today, because we have a conservative attorney here today and a not-so-conservative attorney here today, and we're not going to agree. And the key thing is, right now, our new president is going to be given X number of days, weeks, months, and years to make some changes, and we elected him to do such a thing. And if it doesn't happen,
the trouble is, and I heard you talking about the damn media. They ought to keep their big fat mouth shut unless they have some facts to report.
Well,
If you read, I'll go down the list: CNN, ABC, CBS, the Washington Post, the New York Times. The whole list goes on, and if you read the headlines that they state, it's all this bogus accusations. So you read the article so that they can present their artificial lying contribution to what this man is doing. Why don't they give him a freaking chance?
You know what?
All we want to do is give him a chance to, and everything he does, they counter it. Everything.
When we have, when we don't have our moderate liberal attorney here, we should have Wes come on, Dan, with you and me, and we can just do a whole politics hour.
Well, what you have to remember is that the media's job is to create an interest in what they have to sell.
Yeah, boy,
And
it's
so
self-serving.
it's a self-serving business.
Yep.
And journalism was not intended to be such, but it has morphed into that over the last 2 decades.
And that's what it is. And it's a sad
But
thing.
it's more than self-serving because they wouldn't say anything bad about Hillary Clinton to save her soul.
You know,
Well, we'd
no,
like to
and
think
that's-
that they would, but the reality is they'd be probably more hesitant to do so.
Yes.
hey Wes,
Well,
I'm gonna let you go, but I tell you what, I want to thank you for bringing up the truth, and we are all 100% on your side on this, and
Yes,
and I
but
wish there was
have
something.
I have one more quick statement.
Go ahead.
Why doesn't you folks have a little poll? You know you've been around the block. What does it take? If I could sit here and write a letter or pick up the phone and call Trump and say, hey, this is a big, big issue here. I've never heard him mention it.
Yeah.
I back the man. I want to give him my support. This is very important to people like me. I'm going to be dead here in God knows how many years, and I don't have the money that I've invested. I'm trying to live my life at 71 years old. I'm working. What are you kidding me?
Listen, it's not
And I
going to
was a
change it
pilot.
in your
I was a
lifetime
pilot.
and
I
in
was
my
in the
lifetime.
government,
It's
man.
not going
It
to
will
change.
not change.
But here's the key. I'm more concerned about my grandkids. Even my
Well,
kids I'm
yes.
not as concerned about, but because of our situation in our country. We only have a $20 trillion debt. It's not a big deal.
The only way you're going to get ahead, West, is to go to Cuba and float back over and wash up on the beach, and then
There
you'll
you
be
go.
good to go, brother.
Then
you
you're
go.
covered, my man.
See, those who have squandered the money, too, believe that they did it for a good cause.
Oh boy.
And I have one quick comment. I think if Greg and I sat down and looked at all of the issues that are going on in our country now, I think Greg and I would be more in agreement than you think, because
Can I videotape this?
it's not that we're that far apart.
Right.
We're Americans. We want the
yeah.
best for this country, and that's the problem, that Democrats and Republicans are not talking to each other.
Yeah.
We are too polarized, and that to me is the most significant problem we have at this point.
Hey, Wes, listen.
Well,
call-
that was one quick statement here. That's why what was caused in the last 8 years is racial warfare, economic warfare, status warfare,
Gender
rich against
warfare?
the poor against the rich, and he succeeded. The
Yep.
man succeeded in destroying this country by just turning everybody against each other, and that's what happened. Think about it.
All right, my man. Thanks for calling in, Wes. Have a
All right,
good day.
buddy.
Do we still have Mike on the phone on the other line?
Mike, are you with us? Go right ahead.
Hey, Mike.
Oh,
It-
hey,
it-
what
it-
a great hour as always. Thank you for the great points you all are making. We're enjoying it out here.
Hey, Mike. Thank you so much. Where do I send the check?
I'll qualify first. I'm among the little army of Democrats that voted for this great man, Mr. Trump. My brother and Vero, same way. All for different reasons. Us, primarily his strong law and order stance and his ability to be a builder and achiever with great energy. We believe that he's the guy for this time. 92% of the counties across America supported him, and we still do. We realize there's hundreds of feet trying to trip him up every step of his way constantly. We didn't expect him to come out and make a smooth sail of it, so we're seeing what we expected. But we firmly stand behind him. I agree with everything Mrs. Loyd has said so far. It's just great. And I just wanted to make that opinion.
Thank you.
Mike, listen. Thank you so much for doing that. And here's the key that we look at. And then Dan said it. Alan said it. Hey, everybody. We're all Americans. We all want the best thing for this country.
Exactly.
But it just appears as though the self-serving people, I don't care what party they're in, are not looking at the big picture. They're looking at this short term, how do we achieve our personal goals, rather than what's the right thing for this country. So the reason this guy got elected, because he was a non-politician, he bucked the whole system. He's still bucking the whole system.
Yep.
And we want to give him the chance, and we'll find out what happens. If by the end of this first 2 years, I think we'll have a real good idea. And by the 4 years, if he fails, hey, guess what? Hillary's not dead yet.
My simple opinion, he may not get to make America great again, but he is in the middle of making America better.
There you
That's
go.
good enough for me.
Hey, Mike, thank you.
Well, y'all have a good morning now.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Mike.
Bye-bye.
340-1590, 340-1590. So we were talking about real estate. So the season, I've always thought April was usually a good month in the season, and then when it comes summertime, we have a different buyer. You get the kids, young families looking to buy in April, May, June, for school systems moving and all that kind of stuff. But the real season is retirees or people going to retire that are coming to Florida, right?
Well, we have a mixture. When you and I started so many years ago, because starting in 78 and the
Right.
early 80s, it was more seasonal,
Right.
and that's what we had. We had those seasonal people that always came.
Right.
And remember when we used to sit there, and it was September and October, sometimes he'd go, my God, where's our numbers? And
Yeah,
we'd
yeah.
say, don't worry, this is normal. Even restaurants close down because that's the time.
Admiral's
that
table closed down all the
Every
time.
Yeah,
yes, I
remember?
mean
Yeah.
it's just the nature of the beast. But it has changed through those years, and now we have people coming all the time. We're not as seasonal as we used to
Are
be.
you saying I can't go fishing in the summer like I used to?
Yeah, you can, but you're going to have a lot
But I'm
more
gonna
people
pay
there.
for it.
Yeah, that's the truth.
So that's the difference there. So there are coming all the time. And then when people say, when is it a better time to list my property? Anytime's a good time because
Yeah.
we never know. The other thing they talk about is the newspaper. And the newspaper, and I hate to say this, is about worthless.
Yeah.
Because nobody even looks at the newspaper anymore because we're international companies that are advertising all over the world.
Yeah. 340-1590, 340-1590. And, Mother, do we have we got a real...
We do.
We got a
We've
real
got
caller
he's a
here.
regular.
We got a regular.
Real bulldog.
A real bulldog. Hey, Mr. Dog, you're on the radio.
Yeah, at least I'm regular. I mean, things happen when you get older. You know,
does
that,
happen when
that
you get older.
Metamucil still works. I understand. Anyway,
Joe, see you Tuesday.
that's what I hear. I guess I'll be up to see you Tuesday.
Yeah.
You heard
Scotch is ready.
you heard our bit of our politics running here today. Don't you want to throw in your 3 cents?
You know, as far as I'm concerned, bring it.
There you go.
That's all I'm gonna say.
I understand.
Bring it. If you think you got it, bring it.
Anyway,
That's the way I always did business. Is bring it to the gunfight. See what you got.
hey, speaking of when are you closing on the house?
Vic and I have worked out a deal. I'm going to pre-close and then close on the other one on the 15th. So, we're pretty much out of here. We're looking forward to a great deal, and thanks to Vic and Mr. Mike Paulus.
Good news. Oh,
And
good news.
Greg, you still need to be in communication with Mary Beth, and
Right.
you know why?
Right,
Because Joe actually fell down on his duties because he didn't do
Did he?
what he actually preaches.
Oh, okay.
Uh-oh. Which part did I fall down on now?
Any prospects or suspects? Did you ask Mary Beth if she had a will?
Did I ask Mary Beth if she had a will?
Yeah.
She told me she was leaving everything to you.
To you, Joe, I thought. That's
Oh,
what you
to
told
me, I forgot. Wrong person.
Oh, well, it was one of those wills. Well, it needs to be adjusted, and
Greg is
you know.
Greg is a great adjuster.
yeah, he did mine, and that's fine, and that's great. And we just need to do one. We're trying to get it done before we get out of this community,
Right.
because we know, it's statewide and everything. So
Okay,
we're
well,
cool with that.
Yeah, I'd love
But
to help
we
her.
just want to get it done, Greg.
They'll
love
make an appointment. Listen, Bulldog, I'm gonna let you go. We got just a couple minutes, and I got another caller waiting.
You got it.
I'll see you Tuesday,
Bye,
my man.
Bulldog.
Bye.
All right, Chuck, it's Joe Martek. You're on the radio.
Yes,
You're on the radio. How you doing, my man?
just fine. I'm Chuck.
I knew that part.
First time caller.
Thank you.
You a first-time caller, Chuck?
Yes, sir.
Well, from
thank
now
you so
on,
much.
call us every week because we don't want just Bulldog calling us.
No, I'm not going to do that. I was calling in the reference of the person that called about the Social Security,
Right.
and I'm in kind of the same boat he is. I'm like going on 70, and it's like I remember. I think Johnson is the one. Lyndon Johnson's the one that took this money out, saying he's going to pay it back.
So much for that.
In the
right?
Great Society, remember?
Yeah.
Yep. But I also think that there's a personal issue with the younger generation, and the reason I'm saying that is, hey, nice boats, nice cars, they got everything going for them, but they have no idea what it's like to have things taken away from them.
Yep.
You know, you don't have those advantages anymore. We have the people going in and hacking their computers and things like that, but when somebody goes in there and violates that, hey, that's the end of us. I mean, that's the way I truly believe. But what I'm saying is that man was right because of the fact that when you take money that I paid in, I worked as long as that person did. And I think it's wrong that we can send all this money overseas to bail those people out, but they don't put it back in to the American system where it needs to be. And that's all I got to say. And
Chuck, we 1,000% agree, and I'm glad you called us up.
I'll be calling you back.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Chuck.
Have a good one, Chuck.
Bye.
Thanks. 340-1590, 340-1590. Dave, it's Joe Martek. You're on the radio.
Hey, Joe. Yeah, he's right. The only people who are benefiting are the politicians and their families. See,
Well, you're not kidding.
You got the Republic. You got the Democrat gang, which is vicious. They own the media. The media is vicious, and you got the Republican gang who just goes along because they're afraid because they're getting their butt beat all the time, and then they try to go to approval to the media, and the media is just going to make fun of them forever. So
I think the Republicans have a hard time realizing that they have the power and they're not used to leading, so they're timid, like you say. They're timid and they're hesitant to do the right thing.
Whatever the reason is, it really doesn't matter. We're getting screwed big time because they're just playing together in a big cabal, and we're never going to get our sovereignty back. It's our milk and honey. It's our family that came over here and worked 19 hours a day. You want to call that white privilege? Call it whatever you want. There was no welfare. There was no nothing. You came over. You worked. You worked in a boiler room.
Yep.
You know, it's all milk and honey. They're stealing it, and they shouldn't be helping any other country. None.
Yep.
Nobody.
Listen, all we know is that the system has been broken for a long, long time, and we're all hoping that it'll get repaired, and sooner the better. And none of us are really believing what the media is saying and trying to do. But you know, it's the way the system works, and it's a hard road to hoe.
But it's just, it is a hard road. But you got to realize who the bad guys are and go after them. Don't let them intimidate you. Big Shoe Schumer, that other guy, Ryan. He's a backstabbing little creep. He needs to be removed too. You know, I thought Trump would go in there and start seeing some jumpsuits, and we start seeing some people. Until we see some people getting arrested, we aren't getting anywhere.
Yeah. Hey, my man. Listen. We thank you for calling in. You're speaking to the choir here, and we all want to see some action happening here pretty quick.
Yeah.
So hey,
definitely.
Listen to us and call in anytime. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks a lot.
340-1590. How much time we have left, Mother? 4 minutes.
A lot of frustration out there, Joe.
Well, you know what? It happens, Greg.
And there's a good reason.
And you know, there is a good reason. And the more frustration that happens, the more activism normally you get. So
that's true.
And it probably right now is going to have a bit of a blow up because of all the stuff that's happening. And guess what? I think that's good.
I think everything's reached critical mass. We're like all fed up with everything.
Yeah.
And as far as Social Security, if you can't manage it, to give all the money back. Just
They
give the
don't
money
have
back.
it to give back. I mean, you have to remember
Well, they
that-
need to cough it
well,
up.
Here's what happened was, first of all, they call it a debt. It's part of our 20 trillion or 22 trillion in debt. It shouldn't be counted as debt, and it should never be counted as an entitlement.
Right.
And
No,
I've heard it
because you
called
paid
an
in.
entitlement.
Yeah, right.
I'm not entitled to what I pay for. I'm owed what I pay
Yeah.
for.
Right.
Yeah.
So give it back.
Give it back.
One of the things we have to look at is where is the action of people who believe that this country needs to get back to the way it was. The Democrats get a lot of media coverage because of demonstrations every night, protests, things like that. Where are the people that are sympathetic to the conservative position? Why aren't they out there? Why aren't they calling their senators, their congressmen, and demanding that things get done and demanding that the Republicans get together? We're just sitting around just watching what's going on,
Yeah.
while the Democrats are getting all the media coverage because of the fact that demonstrations sell ratings, and that's a key point. Is Veronica, on the radio, ratings sell.
It's everything.
However,
yeah.
I'm hoping that the boy that's leading this country today has got a strategy. It's called like rope-a-dope. We let some of these things might just dink along for a period of time, but I'm still looking at the midterm elections as a monster turn. And the number one thing was Obamacare. Hey, fine, get it repealed, fine, get a new one in. If we don't get it in and the system keeps imploding, which it's imploding like crazy, many states, it's causing a major problem. Hey, midterm elections.
When you said rope-a-dope, Greg smiled, and I assumed the emphasis was on the word
dope?
dope. Right. Yeah.
He liked that part.
No comment.
340-1590, 340-1590. Well, I guess we talked a bit about real estate. We talked a bit about legal. Because we got two attorneys here. We talked a little bit about insurance. There's still money out there. Mm-hmm. What happened? The market's taken a big hit today, which was kind of due for a big hit. Doesn't really bother me tremendously, but it still goes back to my philosophy, and Dan and I have talked about this quite often, that the market's full. The market's been full for quite a while, and it's due for a major correction. So when I talk to clients, unless they're looking very long term, I'm looking at these 5 and 6% instruments that are either insured or that are not common stock that people can collect interest payments every 3 months. And I just think it's the greatest thing since chocolate milk. Now, a lot of people get greedy when all of a sudden the economy is going straight up and people are making big money. But then all of a sudden greed kind of dies quick when the market takes a big downturn. And all of a sudden the people that are making that 5 or 6 are saying, "Oh, thank you, Joe. Thank you that you got me into something where I'm not losing."
It's better as you get closer to retirement or into retirement to have that stability, Joe.
Yeah, but look at Alan. I mean, he and
he's
Joe,
not stable at all.
No. But he's an attorney, so you can't. You got.
These are your friends?
Attorneys are never stable, are they?
No comment.
No comment. Well, hey, that's the favorite comment from attorneys. No comment.
No comment.
Because we're good listeners.
Yeah, right. Very good. 340-1590. You call the station anytime. If we're not available, they'll take your name and number, and we'll call you back. 340-1590. And until next week, adios.
Thank you. Bye.
You've been listening to the Team Martek Hour. The Team Martek Hour is a paid program. The content was provided by the advertiser. WPSL, its staff, management, and ownership were not responsible for its content. Investment involves risk. Prior to making any investment, an investor should meet suitability requirements. Past results are not necessarily indicative of future performance. Neither the opinions expressed nor the information provided constitutes a recommendation to purchase or provide investment advice. The material presented is not a substitute for obtaining professional advice from a qualified person or firm. Securities offered through Centaurus Financial, member FINRA and SIPC. Tune in again next Wednesday at 11:05 for the Team Martek Hour here on WPSL 1590.